It's been another interesting week for the UFO community, as we've had multiple things that have gone on that have been quantifying of a bombshell title, but I will refuse to put it in the title because you guys go absolutely mental if you see the term bombshell in a title. But please be known, let it be known right here, right now, that it goes against everything that I believe in to not put bombshell in that title. Alright? Just I want to let you know that. But this is a bit of a roundup video of the news of the week to try and get you caught up in case you missed anything. Starting with Chris Mellon, who dropped an absolutely huge UFO, but you almost got me there. He dropped an absolutely huge, like, a bucket load of information on a recent podcast episode. I don't think I've ever seen a single article tank a news outlet as hard as I have with the Wall Street Journal's most recent UAP article. It has literally destroyed them in terms of any credibility that they may have had left. Everybody is talking about it in the UFO topic, right? And in the UFO circle. And Christopher Mellon has also just weighed in with his thoughts and opinions on the situation. Now, for anyone that doesn't know who Chris Mellon is, I'll just give you a bit of brief, history about him, why he's an important talking point for this video, and why his opinion ultimately matters when it comes to the WSJ article. So, Christopher Mellon is a former US government official and a prominent figure in the disclosure surrounding the UAP topic, right? So, he was born into an influential Mellon family, known for its wealth and involvement in banking and philanthropy. Chris Mellon served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Defense of Intelligence under Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, and he also held a senior role at the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, overseeing national security and intelligence operations, right? Obviously, instantly, credentials are there, high notable ranking positions there. That's why he what he says carries a little bit of weight. More so than, like, me coming out and being like, the Wall Street Journal articles were a load of rubbish, all the rest of it. Because that's just my opinion. But this person obviously has a bit of understanding about what's actually going on. Now, there's also a lot of UAP advocacy going on with Chris Mellon. So, he's been very vocal about his engagement within the UAP topic. And obviously, he's appeared on Joe Rogan, for example. He's been talking about it for a very, very long time. Now, Mellon has become a leading advocate for UAP transparency. Not just a part of it, but actually leading part of it. And he's played a pivotal role in briefing UAP issues and bringing it to a public attention by helping leak 3 declassified Pentagon UFO videos known as the FLIR, Gimbal, and Go Fast videos to the New York Times in 2017 alongside Lou Elizondo, a former Pentagon official. And these videos showing unexplained aerial objects encountered by the US Navy pilots sparked renewed interest in UAPs. So he basically helped bring this topic to the fore and was like, look, bang, here's some, like, serious footage. And these videos have stood the test of time. When you think of, like, everyone knows about the Go Fast video, everyone knows about the gimbal, everyone knows about the FLIR, right? Like, it's quite a serious group of videos. It's not like, it's like the jellyfish video that's from Jeremy Corbell back from January 2024, I believe. That's also kind of stood the test of time. Yes, there's been some back and forths about it, but ultimately it's still there. Now, Christopher Mellon has come out over on his private Twitter on the 20th of June 2025 stating, regarding the WSJ article, every American should know that their government has confirmed the reality of UAPs. Specifically, US officials responsible for analyzing thousands of military US UAP reports submitted to the Pentagon have acknowledged data confirming the presence of intelligently controlled vehicles exhibiting technological capabilities that we do not understand and cannot replicate. These are explicitly not secret US aerospace platforms. The Department of Defense has long been aware that the Air Force disinformation program described by the WSJ, and clearly it has not altered their assessment of UAP reality. So what then is the real significance of the WSJ story, and why would a front page article on UAP failed to mention the US government's official position, conveying instead of impression directly contrary to the facts. The man speaking facts, right? So there's obviously a lot more to this than just like on the surface. So, you know, he obviously disputes that the Wall Street Journal's assertion on the UAP phenomena are largely explained by conventional means, which is what they try to convey in their articles, such as Pentagon disinformation or electromagnetic generator tests, for example, the 1967 Malmstrom Air Force Base incident. And he argues that the article actually misrepresents the reality of UAPs, which US officials have confirmed through thousands of military reports analysed by the Pentagon. So obviously, you know, he's basically calling them out and being like, how can you say it's this when all of the facts and the, you know, the proof sits here and says the contrary? Now, he also makes accusations of unprofessional journalism, which is, you know, completely warranted. So, you know, people, not just himself, but many others, including Voices on X, have called out the Wall Street Journal journalist Joel Schechtman for unprofessional and unethical behaviour in the article's reporting. And Mellon confirmed having a negative experience with the Wall Street Journal, aligning with similar complaints from figures like Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot and UAP advocate. Some have demanded a retraction of the story, urging readers to contact the Wall Street Journal's editor-in-chief. That's how serious people are taking this. And, you know, it's obviously, it kind of goes hand in hand that we've had this issue with the Wall Street Journal with this article, and then Chris Mellon's like, yeah, and there's also other people that have had issues, like Ryan Graves, who of course sat in front of Congress and testified back in 2023 alongside David Grush, I believe it was. So I think it was 2023. So again, more weight to kind of go against the Wall Street Journal. As of right now, the article still stands. Like, it's still there. Probably it's bringing the Wall Street Journal a lot of money because, of course, controversy sells. And, you know, Chris Mellon then goes on to talk about, like, you know, he emphasizes that the US government has acknowledged UAPs as a real phenomenon, supported by data from military sensors and pilot testimonies. And he urges the Wall Street Journal's narrative undermines credible evidence from congressional efforts towards transparency, such as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which investigates whistleblower and investigations and whistleblower protections. So there is a hell of a lot to go off there, you know, and it does undermine the strides forward that people have made to try and get the UAP topic out there, like these congressional hearings. And then all of a sudden this big Wall Street Journal comes along, one of the biggest article outlets, you know, especially over in the States, comes along and is just like, I'm going to completely undo all that by stating X, Y, and Z. It's a real mess. It's a real mess. Now, you know, Mellon's already had some run-ins with the Wall Street Journal, so, you know, he's even stated in articles on UAPs, notably in 2022, for example. He did a piece on his website where he refuted claims by Holman Jenkins Jr. that a UFO commotion was driven by the defense establishment, and he urged that mainstream media, including the Wall Street Journal, often downplays or discredits UAP reports despite growing evidence and legislative action like the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act provisions for UAP disclosure. Now, basically, he's just hammering home the point that he's always tried to make against the Wall Street Journal and other news outlets who are, you know, like when you think of state-controlled journalism, you don't think of somewhere like the USA. You think of that as quite open and free media. You think of places like Russia, North Korea, for example, who have got, like, you know, everything that gets broadcast goes through the state. It goes through government first, and then it's like, you know, what's shared is what they want to share. Whereas, you know, with this, obviously, maybe there's an argument to possibly be made that the government's seeping money into the Wall Street Journal to make these claims. Ultimately, the Wall Street Journal don't care. Like, what's an extra few $100,000 if that's how much it costs? Millions of dollars. Who knows? It's an interesting talking point, and it's good that people like Chris Mellon are coming forward and talking out against them, because ultimately these are the people that are going to make the changes. Then we've got Ross Coulthart, who made some incredible claims, right? Talking about UFOs that he captured from a secret facility, and also talking about the Booger Sphere. Ross Coulthart and Jesse Michaels have just sat down together to do a podcast episode where they spoke about all things UFO. And I probably won't use the term bombshell in the title of the video, because that is just one thing that is guaranteed to trigger the community, but it is pretty bombshell, I can't lie. Some of the things that have come out are absolutely huge. So in the video that was titled, I located a UFO base in Arizona featuring Ross Coulthart on Jesse Michael's YouTube channel, they obviously sat down together and spoke about a hell of a lot of things. And there is, I've got to say, a lot. It was an hour and 50-minute episode, so you can imagine they went into quite a lot of depth with a lot of things. The first thing that they kind of touched upon was the Boogosphere incident, which obviously is in the hands of Jamie Mellon right now. I don't need to go over it. You already probably are very well aware it was obviously discovered in Colombia and handed over to Jamie Mellon to kind of do some discoveries on. But the sphere is described as an aluminium alloy 3 times harder than any conventional aerospace materials. However, skepticism exists, of course, as it kind of resembles a 9-litre fuel tank, raising questions about its authenticity straight off the bat. But then, interestingly, and I think this is one of the biggest points that was brought up within the whole podcast, it was this Sedona, Arizona, and Secret Mountain. So, as you can imagine, Ross Coulthart reports observing large pulsating golden orbs escorted by Black Hawk helicopters over Secret Mountains near Sedona at 1:30 a.m., suggesting a secret underground military facility. And straight off the very start of the YouTube video, if you listen to it here, this is kind of the key talking point that they kind of get people enticed with. Listen to this.
If you looked at a particular place over Secret Mountain, you would see this big orb being escorted by helicopters rising from behind Secret Mountain. And we watched at 1:30 in the morning, and sure enough, up comes this beautiful golden orb, gigantic. It pulses, it's plasmatic.
And so where my mind might go with that is that this is some sort of global control system.
Got an object about a mile behind us and it's following us. Let's hope they're friendly.
One of the first things that one of my sources in that Georgetown pub back in probably 2018 told me was, it's all about consciousness.
You've probably met more people in and around these programs than anybody else alive.
You are saying to the human race, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
Obviously, it's a very, very good episode. I do highly encourage everyone to go and check it out, right? But that key part there about the Secret Mountain was something that really kind of caught my eye, especially because according to Coulthart, evidence does suggest that a 50-foot wide reinforced steel concrete structure detected by ground penetrating radar, significant electrical infrastructure, and report of restricted access by armed personnel, hinting at non-human intelligence or advanced technology going on within that secret facility. Mind-boggling. This is all in Arizona, by the way. And then, obviously, they go on to talk about some other things. But what also was really, really interesting was his talk about David Grush, right? Because according to Coulthart, and from what he's reported, he was actually detained by US Customs and Border Protection after he did that key interview with David Grush. Now, we already know that on the build-up to that interview, David Grush was being highly, highly encouraged by people of high authority positions within government not to do that. And if he did do it, or they got any inkling of him doing it, they would arrest him, throw him away in a prison cell to rot and die, according to David Grush, or potentially even worse. But Coulthart also got the brunt of this, because apparently, after that interview, he said that he was detained by US Custom and Border Protection, and basically, apparently, according to him, high-level flag was placed on his file and suspects someone from the agency was responsible for this. This is the kind of little clip of that.
I have to admit, I had my computer on auto-delete if it was opened.
Yeah.
When I came through customs.
Wow.
And I was ready to go live on national television if I was detained by Border Protection.
Wow.
Which actually happened to me after I did the Grush story.
Really?
Yeah, after I did the Grush story, I was detained and held by CBP.
Oh, my God.
And a mutual friend of ours made some inquiries and confirmed that there'd been some kind of a flag put on my file.
Unbelievable.
And unfortunately, it was so high level, they couldn't access it. But basically, somebody, I suspect from the agency, had flagged, we want to know when Coulthart comes through next, and let's cause him some mischief. And I have to admit, we have a euphemism in Australia, tearing somebody a new asshole. I just wasn't going to put up with it. I summoned my anger and basically yelled at Border Protection and said, I strongly advise that you get on the phone, whoever it is that's flagged me, contact them now or tell them I will be going live on television in about 10 minutes to talk about the fact that I'm being illegally held. I have a valid visa. You have no good reason to hold me. If you want to fight, you can have one. And I was let out.
I mean, fair enough, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to have some balls to be able to do that. But this is quite a common, consensus when it comes to these kinds of things, isn't it? You've got Bob Lazar talking about the dead man's trigger, or whatever it is that you want to call it. And now you've got Russ Coulthart, who's like, I'll go live on television in 10 minutes if you don't let me go. I mean, it's one hell of a threat to make. And, he also goes on to talk about some other key kind of points within the UFO sphere, right? Like, for example, government and media cover-up. So he talks about, deliberate conspiracies to conceal UAP evidence involving leadership cabal and intimidation tactics such as buzzing congressional staffers with homes with helicopters, and mainstream medias, including the New York Times, being criticised for ignoring credible UAP stories like David Grush, Jake Barber, all the rest of it, despite public interest in those matters. And obviously, we've just had the Wall Street Journal also literally absolutely kaput any form of credibility that they may have had left. With that journal basically, or that article saying, nothing's going on. And people are like, hang on, there's literal evidence that you've reported on in the past that suggests the contrary, which, that's obviously a huge talking point right now. And he's also gone on to talk about, basically how UFO journalism has completely gone down the shitter because there's no ethical journalism left. So he references a massive buried UFO too large to move, obviously within this as well, and he withholds details to protect sources and holds national security, emphasizing journalistic ethics over full disclosure. But he's already kind of mentioned this one as well. I think it was believed to be in Korea. If I remember, if memory serves me right, I think it was in Korea. Let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments. But I'm pretty sure, it was Soho. No, not Soho. Where was it? I think it was Korea direction. South Korea, that is. But, yeah, it's all up in the air. And, Ross Coulthart has ruffled a few feathers recently. And, he's got his detractors and his, people that love him. More so now, people kind of have been like he was great and now he's not. I don't know why. I quite like him. I think he's a great guy. Never spoken to him personally, but just based off of how he portrays himself within interviews and stuff, I think he's, a pretty decent person. But he could be pulling the wool over everyone else's eyes, just like the rest of them. Now, keeping on the topic of the boogosphere, we've got Dr. Stephen Greer also now working on the boogosphere to try and quote-unquote carbon date that motherfucker, to try and find out how long it's been around for. I don't know how you carbon date metal. I know about carbon dating loads of other things, but metal, that's an interesting one. The boogosphere has been one of the biggest anomalies within the UFO space over the past couple of months, especially after it was obviously found in Colombia by a couple of people in a field where the grass completely died out in Colombia. The story's very well known, right? It was recorded without any physical form of propulsion. It just crash landed, it was taken, it changed in size and in density, no, not in size, but it changed in density and in weight. It changed in temperatures. It was handed over to Jaime Maussan. I think I'm right in pronouncing it this time. Gone are the days of Jamie Maussan. Jaime Maussan. Apparently that's how I pronounce it. If I butchered that, I do apologise. Right? But obviously every Tom, Dick, Harry and their cat has been trying to go out and investigate this thing. And Stephen Greer is one of the latest people who have gone out and investigated it. Now, there was a conference going on June 20th of this year in Mexico City. And, and basically he went out to try and investigate it, to get his hands on it for himself, to kind of see what he can make of it. And straight from the get-go, obviously Greer basically held an international press conference and hosted by, obviously, like I say, the controversial UFO researcher Jaime Maussan, Maussan, and where he examined the sphere firsthand. He described it as clearly an anomalous object with multiple possible origins, and he suggested it may use gravitic or anti-gravity technology. And Greer noted that the sphere's seamless construction, integrated with fiber optic systems and polymer with carbon near its equator, which could indicate the age of predating industrial civilization if carbon dated. He also mentioned that the sphere, weighing 22 pounds, exhibited unusual flight behavior, hovering without visible propulsion until it struck a power cable. Now, Greer has also claimed that a green beret he's been working with identified the symbols on the Booga sphere matching those from an unidentified device, hinting at possible non-human origins. He's now pushing for advanced testing, including isotope level metal analysis, carbon-14 dating, and checks for unknown elements to determine basically what the point of origin for this actually is, right? And to see if it's terrestrial or extraterrestrial. Now, that's kind of what we know, kind of thus far. But here's a few more little details, kind of talking about. He basically took a few grams of the Booga sphere, including carbon-based polymer, and they plan to use the carbon-14 dating system and oxygen isotope analysis to determine its age and whether it could be terrestrial or not. Now, unfortunately, the audio is dubbed for Mexican users, but you can kind of hear what's being said.
Vino a México para conocer la esfera. ¿Qué encontró? En primer lugar, es claramente un objeto anómalo. Y lo considero como algo con múltiples posibilidades de origen. Pero creo que antes de sacar conclusiones, estamos realizando algunas pruebas. Trajimos a científicos muy competentes para que investiguen la metalurgia, la composición del metal a nivel de isótopos, lo que nos permite determinar si proviene de la Tierra o del espacio exterior. Hay maneras de hacerlo mediante isótopos. La otra es que en la esfera de Booga, alrededor del ecuador, hay agujeros y manchas oscuras que contienen un polímero. Y este polímero contiene carbono. Por lo tanto, vamos a realizar pruebas de carbono 14 de última generación para determinar su edad. Por ejemplo, podría tener 2000 años. Y si ha existido durante tanto tiempo, es anterior a cualquier posibilidad de que sea un objeto moderno creado por el hombre. Otra parte de lo que queremos hacer es observar algunos metales que podrían contener oxígeno en su composición. Existe una forma de analizar el oxígeno para determinar si proviene de isótopos terrestres o espaciales. Se trata de estudios científicos muy detallados para los que hemos recolectado muestras muy pequeñas. Lo interesante es que mientras realizábamos esto, y usted también lo descubrió en sus estudios con el polímero, se observan fibras ópticas diminutas, casi microscópicas. Pero lo fascinante es que existen fibras ópticas. No es algo que fabricaríamos en la era moderna con nuestras máquinas. Es parte integral de la estructura, como si estuviera moldeada en una sola pieza, con todos estos componentes integrados en la estructura de la esfera de Booga. Y esto no es la típica fabricación terrestre que conocemos, a menos que provenga de una civilización muy antigua, que teóricamente podría haber existido hace miles de años y que tuvo contacto con una civilización extraterrestre. Esto nos lleva a la pregunta de su antigüedad. ¿Ha existido en la Tierra durante mucho tiempo, cientos o miles, quizás decenas de miles de años en teoría? ¿Es de origen extraterrestre o proviene de una civilización terrestre que pudo haber tenido contacto con personas extraterrestres o incluso más allá? Cientos de miles de años con una civilización humana avanzada o no humana. Esto nos lleva a la pregunta sobre las momias, ya que claramente no son Homo sapiens ni humanoides, pero sí tienen formación humana, humanoide. Por lo tanto, si provienen de un periodo similar, bien podría haber existido una civilización extraterrestre en Sudamérica o en diferentes partes del mundo que poseía estas tecnologías de las que no tenemos constancia. Por lo tanto, estos análisis nos darán pistas sobre su posible evolución. Ahora, claramente, la forma en que giraba, estoy convencido de que esos videos son legítimos, pesa unos 10 kilogramos o 22 libras, algo así de pesado, moviéndose tanto como lo hacía con la necesidad de tener una fuente de energía sólida y también para que levitara porque no había cohetes ni propulsión. Entonces esto entra en toda un área del estudio de la ciencia del movimiento de los ovnis, cómo van del punto A al B sin combustible, de dónde proviene la energía y cómo causan este efecto de levitación, porque claramente flotaba y se movía así por la atmósfera hasta que chocó con el cable eléctrico, lo que creo que provocó un cortocircuito y luego aterrizó en el suelo. Al verlo, es prácticamente un objeto tridimensional real. Ciertamente es anómalo en su forma de volar. No se puede explicar con la tecnología aeroespacial convencional. Parece bastante antiguo, pero al mismo tiempo está decorado con grabados a mano que hemos encontrado que algunos de esos símbolos fueron vistos por un militar boina verde que estaba en una base subterránea en Indiana. Y este caballero, acabamos de entrevistarlo la semana pasada, y vio un dispositivo de comunicación extraterrestre que entonces creó casi como una ola de calor, y en él, a medida que se acercaba, estaban todos estos símbolos, 4 o 5 de los cuales están en la esfera de Buga en la parte superior, en el Polo Norte.
So, obviously, it's hard to follow, I know, I do apologise. I tried to find the original audio, but it's been dubbed for the sake of, you know, the people that watch it. But you get a good idea of Dr. Stephen Greer's take on it and how much he's kind of done testing and what they're testing it for example. But that was not the end of Stephen Greer's, involvement within this, as he made... I'm going to use the term bombshell, right? Don't get mad at me in the comments. I'm not going to put it in the title. Don't worry about it. I'm holding the urge back to put bombshell in every single title right now. But I get people get upset with me for that. So I'm gonna relent. I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, he has claimed that men posing as police officers have attempted to confiscate the Buga sphere, which obviously is quite a bold claim. So, he's claimed that an attempt was made to steal the Buga sphere from the vault in Mexico City, where it was being stored for scientific analysis, and according to Greer, fake policemen tried to access the vault as reported in a statement he made during the June 2025 conference, and in subsequent posts made on X, and he suggested this incident underscores the sphere's significance and the need for heightened security, noting the samples from the sphere are being tested in a state-of-the-art lab under close monitoring to prevent interference. Now, obviously, I like to kind of be balanced with these things as much as I can be. There are no significant, there's no significant evidence to suggest that this did take place. All right, there's nothing that's been shared to be like this was what's happened. You know, it's just kind of hearsay. But it's an interesting talking point, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because it's one hell of a claim to be made. But it has brought people into the question of, is this being said to keep the relevance on the Buga sphere for as long as possible? Is there being money injected into this by keeping it relevant? I don't know. It's a really difficult one, because this could have actually happened, for all we know. but we don't know. This is the kind of thing I'm trying to say.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Stephen Greer. I'm in Mexico City. As many of you know, we've been examining the Boogosphere for the last 2 days with Congressman Burleson and a group of scientists. We've just been notified by Jaime Mason that there was an attempt by fake policemen to enter the vault where this Boogosphere is stored, and we have notified security in the apparatus I'm working with under law enforcement. And you should know that the other risk here is that we have taken specific samples from the Boogosphere that will be tested in a state-of-the-art lab to prove whether or not the metal, as well as some of the other components, are of Earth or outer space origin. Those scientists' information have been provided to the top law enforcement and security apparatus that I'm working with, and so any sort of attempts to interfere with this examination will be known, and the people and perpetrators will be held to account for. So this is what I wanted people to know, and we're doing everything to set up security for this. Thank you.
Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting claims being made. Obviously, no proof has come forward to suggest that this has actually happened, but we'll just have to take the guy at his word, which some people, admittedly, do struggle with, because ultimately this isn't the first time that claims like this have been made without, validation and significant backing. What do you guys make of it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Stephen Greer's involvement within the Boogosphere. Do you think the Boogosphere is even a thing? Do you actually... Well, it's obviously a thing. It's a physical thing. But is it, extraterrestrial like everyone's suggesting? Or is it just, let's not forget that, the people involved aren't exactly the most reputable of people, as harsh as that may come across. Then we've also got the new UFO materials that are due to be released to the world via the MUFON 2025 conference, right? At the mediocre price of $99 for the entire year. MUFON are back this year with another symposium and promising, well, to be even better than 2024, as they have revealed Materials 2.0, which apparently is more UAP materials that they are going to be disclosing to the rest of the world that they've had hold of and they've been researching on. This is pretty big. So the announcement came about 2 days ago, right, from the Mutual UFO Network, otherwise known as MUFON, right over on their YouTube channel when they announced it with this little teaser trailer to get the, the taste buds going.
Hi everybody, my name is Bob Spearing. I am MUFON's Director of International Investigations. I'd like to invite you to join us July 19th, a Saturday night, in Cincinnati, Ohio at our MUFON Symposium for a very special event, Unknown Materials 2.0. In 2023, MUFON received a mysterious Russian sample, possibly craft debris. Extensive testing was done on it at the time, but over the course of this past year, MUFON has done more extensive testing of the material, and what we've discovered is quite astonishing. We will also have on hand a witness who actually saw debris fall from a UFO, and this material has been tested by the NSA, has been in the hands of Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, and others, and we have that witness and that material. So if you really want to see something interesting and want to be part of the disclosure movement, I thoroughly hope that you can join us. For tickets, go to mufonsymposium.com, and if you can't be there in person, via our live stream, mufonsymposium.com/live-stream. Hope to see you there in person or virtually.
Now, this is a pretty big deal, right? Because MUFON, of course, got their hands on some UAP material allegedly back in 2023. Back in 2024, they held, their biannual symposium, which is you know, it was quite extraordinary for the reasons listed above, right? Because they had their hands on this material. Now, it also featured some prominent speakers, including UFO researchers, experiencers, and whistleblowers, addressing topics like the UAP disclosure, government transparency, and also the scientific analysis of physical evidence like this UAP material. And it was held like this year, both in person and via a live stream, with the live stream ticket priced at $99. Which also included a year's subscription to MUFON TV. And the event included presentations, panel discussions, and networking opportunities for attendees to focus on modern investigative approaches to the UAP topic. Now, obviously, the materials was kind of the key highlight to the MUFON symposium for 2024. And they announced the analysis of the material allegedly recovered from a crashed UAP in Russia, referred to as, quote, materials unknown. The initial testing was conducted by Russian labs, followed by an analysis of a US lab, who hasn't been disclosed. An X-ray fluorescence testing identified approximately 10% of the material's composition, including elements like bromine, calcium, titanium, iron, and copper. The remaining 90% was described as an unidentifiable organometallic substance, suggesting unknown origin, possibly due to its unique isotopic ratios or molecular structures. Now, MUFON, back in 2024, claimed that these findings were quite significant, with some calling it potentially the biggest UFO-related news of the year. Bear in mind, you know, a lot happened last year with regards to the UAP topic, right? But now the likes of Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, and the NSA are also involved in the analysis of this material. And that's where we develop over to 2025's symposium. So the material is the exact same, allegedly, but apparently they've done, over the course of the past year, a lot more research into this. And that's kind of their key selling point once again, to try and get people intrigued to get involved with the 2025 symposium. So we don't really know a lot of details thus far, but it's obviously themed around the UFO research, and, you know, top UFO researchers, experiencers, and whistleblowers will also be there, both in person and via live stream, making it accessible globally. And obviously the big selling point, the USP for this one, is the fact that they are going to be releasing more information with regards to this Russian UFO material that they've got their hands on and have been testing. And it's due to take place on July 19th, which I believe, like they said, was a Saturday. What time? I don't 100% know just yet, but over on the MUFON live stream website, right, you can kind of get tickets to purchase your access to the MUFON International's 2025 Symposium live stream presentation. So the small cost of $99, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, that's not a low amount of money. You do get a year's subscription to MUFON television, but obviously, this is one of the biggest things. Now, if you go to speakers, obviously there's a lot of 2025 keynote speakers, for example, and, there's a long list of names of people who are, part of the disclosure, part of the MUFON movement, right? Now, with regards to this, the last symposium was held in Irving, Texas, and it also focused on, obviously, quite heavily on the Russian case. There was a lot of skepticism surrounding it. Some online discussions, particularly on platforms like Reddit, questioned MUFON's credibility, citing concerns about them handling evidence. For example, mailing sensitive materials and their business model, which includes charging for access to reports. Critics argue that MUFON's claims lack transparency, such as specifying which labs the US have conducted and which tests, providing peer-reviewed data. So this is kind of the idea of people, kind of critiquing it. There's always going to be critics to this kind of thing because, especially when you kind of keep people in the lurch a little bit by not disclosing the names of the labs, or just kind of, there was this whole thing about just mailing the UFO materials just via the post, which obviously with that kind of material, you'd think that greater care would be kind of invested into it. It would be hand delivered by one person to another. It would be, literally cellophaned and bubble wrap and kept so under lock and key, but it was just delivered via, I don't know, it's like sending UFO materials to someone via the Royal Mail in the UK. first of all, I wouldn't even guarantee it would probably get there on time, and secondly, you know, it's you just can't guarantee these things. It getting lost in the mailroom, for example. Like, this is literal alleged UAP material, and you're just willing to just give it to some Tom, Dick, or Harry via UPS to just deliver. Wild. But yeah, obviously that's the critique kind of side of things, and how people kind of like, what is going on. Last year, the materials caused quite the stir. A lot of people were talking about it. It kind of went really quiet for a period of time, and then it reignited because the likes of, I can't remember who were the speakers last year, but I'm pretty sure Gary Nolan was a big speaker part of it. I think David Grush might also be involved in this somewhere in some capacity. Obviously, they've got Lou Elizondo involved now as well. Lou Elizondo is, you know, everywhere right now. He's literally everywhere when it comes to UFO topics. Like, it's interesting. Will you guys be tuning into it? Are you intrigued to hear about the new revelations regarding this UFO material 2.0? Is it just going to be more of the same? Obviously, they've hyped some new developments, so let's hope that there is something to it, but let's see. And then you've got the UK, who are prepared to begin things and get the ball rolling with some very, very interesting stuff regarding UFO congressional hearings like we've seen in the US, but instead it's going to be in front of a bunch of MPs. And apparently King Charles III is very, very keen to get this ball rolling as well, because he's got a keen interest in the paranormal and in UFOs. It would seem like the UK is trying to follow in the footsteps of the USA, as they have just announced that there will be hearings planned with MPs to sit down and listen to alien whistleblowers about UAP topics, right? So this is obviously off the back of the last couple of congressional hearings that's happened since 2023-24. We've just had one in 2025. I think there's going to be some more in 2025 with congressmen and women across the board over in the United States, where whistleblowers like David Grush, Ryan Graves, Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, many others have come forward with information and, you know, evidence to kind of get the ball rolling on pressuring the government in the United States to try and disclose the UAP topic. The rest of the world has just kind of sat back and watched until now, as it has been announced by the Daily Star, so, you know, take this with a pinch of salt, of course, that UFO hearings are planned with the MPs to hear from alien whistleblowers. So the US-style hearing will allow the RAF, Royal Air Force for anyone that doesn't know, Army and Navy whistleblowers to tell all about experiences that they've previously banned from revealing under military non-disclosure rules and for fear of ridicule. Now, the typical British way to deal with something like this is that British stiff upper lip, where it's kind of like, say nothing, you know, speak to whoever you need to speak to, and then just forget this kind of stuff ever happened. That's quite the typical response from the UK with regards to topics like this, but it seems like now there's a lot of pressure on this kind of thing to kind of be like, do you know what? Now's a perfect time to do this. Yeah, the world is on the brink of just absolute collapse and calamity, but fuck it, let's do it. So Britain is set to hold a public hearing which military personnel can disclose their close encounters with UFOs. Now, the US-style hearings will allow the RAF, Army and Navy whistleblowers to tell all about experiences they've previously been banned from, like we stated. And the UK's new UFO disclosure group has secured a meeting with a minister from the House of Lords to set up a forum where alien whistleblowers can come forward with evidence. And the group was set up by documentary filmmaker Mark Christopher Lee to push transparency on reported sightings of UFOs, also known as unidentified area phenomena, or UAPs commonly known. So, as Daily Star revealed previously, a letter from a body calling for full disclosure in the UK was sent to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Now an associate of the Brit leader has arranged a minister from the House of Lords to meet with Mark to put the first steps into place to create a select committee to hear evidence from UFO experiences. Now, similar to hearings that before and over in the US Congress have led to the release of previously classified documents revealing report cases and close encounters between military personnel and mystery craft. Mark also said it was essential whistleblowers can come forward without the fear of any ridicule. Now, speaking at a screening of his latest documentary, the Rendlesham UFO, the British Roswell, at the Rain Dance Film Festival, he said one of Sir Keir Starmer's friends and associates is arranging to meet with someone from the House of Lords, one minister, so that's a start. I'm looking forward to setting up a formal meeting with someone from Sir Keir Starmer's government. A select committee is the place to start. They can get all the evidence together, get people to go there and give evidence under oath. That's what we want. I've got RAF pilots coming to me saying that they've had incidents in the sky. They won't talk about them for the fear of ridicule. The other day I had a Met police officer say the same. He had a UFO sighting, doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to go on record, but won't for the fear of ridicule. We want to ask the government to provide a safe platform for whistleblowers to come forward so that we can catch up with the United States. The US is where it's all happening. We've got Congress talking about it. We've got credible witnesses giving evidence under oath. We want the same in the United Kingdom. Mark has been informed Sir Keir is being briefed on UFO activity around the globe, and King Charles III is even pushing for UFO disclosure due to his own interest and that of his late mum and dad, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, in extraterrestrial activity. The filmmaker also said, I think the chances are high. I know from sources that Sir Keir is being briefed by other UFO authorities from America, and the King wants to get involved as well. That's what I've heard from one of his channels. We know that he is in contact with various people about this. He's the king of all faiths. How would this affect Christianity, Judaism and Islam in the UK if we were to find out we're not alone? What would create an existential paradox? Whose God is it? Mark's previous documentary, The King of UFOs, included evidence that the royals took a UFO phenomenon seriously, with Prince Philip collecting military reports and inviting experts for private briefings. Colin Andrews, a prominent crop circle researcher, personally briefed both Philip and Prince Charles on cases involving UFO activity. Of course, that would be Prince Charles back before his mother passed away, Queen Elizabeth, and he came king. So this is kind of exciting to me, right? Because I always knew that Prince Philip had a keen interest. He allegedly was due to meet an alien. I can't remember what the alien's name was, but it was going to be like in a secure facility over in the United Kingdom. And now we've obviously got a vetted interest from King Charles, and you've also got an interest from Sir Keir Starmer, who is being allegedly briefed already on the UFO topic from people from America, which is really interesting. And whenever I think of the UFO topic, I think, people from the US instantly come to mind. The president knows about aliens. Whistleblowers know about aliens from the United States. The US military are all over it because you think of Area 51, the Roswell incident. All of these things happen in America. And I think Hollywood's also got a part to play in that, because everything that happens in Hollywood with horror movies and alien sci-fi movies is over in America. E.T., for example, War of the Worlds, for example. All of this kind of stuff. It's always over in America. What's that one with Will Smith in it? Where he's the pilot. I can't remember what that one's called. Let me know down in the comments. I'm pretty sure that's a sci-fi alien flick. Anyway, what do you guys think? Ultimately, can the UK catch up with the US with regards to disclosure? I mean, to me, all disclosure is better than no disclosure, as long as it's honest, as long as it's, obviously over in the United States, there's a lot of talk about who's being honest, because you've got the likes of Lou Elizondo presenting alleged false evidence, allegedly, in front of Congress and swearing under oath that it's real and not fact-checking this stuff before presenting it. So, as long as it's not like that, I think the UK should be fine. I'd be intrigued to see who comes forward with regards to whether it be from the police, whether it be from the RAF, the military, in any capacity like the Navy or the Army. Different people coming forwards, and who would be the representative whistleblower to a degree, because a lot of the people are from America. Who would be the one to kind of spearhead this stuff? It's all up in the air. David Grush was the one that really kind of blew this all to the fore for congressional hearings. Who's going to do that for the UK? Who's going to lead the charge? What do you guys think about all of this news? And what do you guys think about this kind of Sunday roundup where I kind of compile everything together, tie it all neatly together, and then get ready for the new week? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. We're down there. Jump to get the hell out of that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.